I've seen since October 7th, visiting here in New York, many pro-Palestine debates in London, protests. Although some of them say they're pro-Palestine, I think that's putting it nicely. In my experience, before Israel even responded, was that there people were celebrating on the streets in Britain. So I would say that there's elements, maybe big, maybe small, that are pro-Hamas. But I wondered whether that ideology, let's call it Palestinianism, or that Israel is an
anti-Zionism.
Anti-Zionism. Maybe that's a better way of framing it. Is anti-Zionism a luxury belief?
Interesting. I mean, you are seeing it. I just, whenever I think of this, immediately my mind goes to all those Hamas encampments at elite colleges of people who are personally unaffected by what's happening in Israel and in Gaza and so on, and yet they think that they're doing something noble and righteous by skipping class. And they get
tremendous status from doing so. And by the way, just for clarity, this is a war started by Hamas. Mm-hmm. Hamas could end it at any moment if they hand over the hostages. Yeah. They surrender. But even if they handed over the hostages, that would be a start. And yet these people, I don't hear, they're not anti-Hamas protests. They're anti-Israel, anti-Zionist protests. So it seems to me that they're doing it and they're getting status from it.
Yeah. And they're, inflating the meaning of words like genocide, for example. I mean, there are Palestinian Arabs who live in Israel, and the Israeli government is not rounding them up and putting them on trains or something. They're not targeting them as an ethnic group. They were retaliating because this was an act of war. And, I have compared this to something like, if you go back to like 1944 and, the U.S. is firebombing Tokyo in response for Pearl Harbor, and then suddenly you have a bunch of Ivy League students saying the U.S. needs to stop their genocide against the Japanese, but that's not what was happening. There was no genocide. This was an act of war, and they're retaliating and, using very brutal means, but they didn't start that war, but they're trying to finish it and ensure that those attacks don't happen again. So, yeah, it's... I was just really horrified by what happened there, and then later with the Ivy League presidents and the president of MIT saying, calling for the genocide of Jews is, it's not against their policies. So this was late 2023. Yeah,
they called for the head of MIT.
So they were asked, this was a congressional hearing, they were asked, is calling for the genocide of Jews a violation of the speech policies at your university? And this was Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania. And
Claudine Gay.
That's right, Claudine Gay. And I believe two of them lost their jobs.
But to be clear, she didn't call for the genocide of Jews.
They did not call, but they refused.
They refused. Yes,
yeah,
right.
They refused to say that it was it violated their speech policies, and they said, well, it depends on the context, and they equivocated and hemmed and hawed and so on. But a lot of people pointed out that if they were asked, what about calling for the genocide of blacks or calling for the genocide of Arabs or Palestinians for that matter, like would students who do that be penalized in some way? Because people were doing that, saying, calling for the genocide of Jews, but there was no response to it from the universities. So there is a double standard there. And this is that's an interesting kind of intra-left battle, I think, where people on the hard left are attempting to sort of push the moderate left more toward their side, or attempting to damage their reputations in some way.
Of the moderate left.
Of the moderate left, that's right. Yeah.
How would they be damaging the reputation?
Well, I think they're trying to say that they are traitors, or that they're supporting genocide, or that they're fascist in disguise, or they're really on the right, or that kind of thing.
It's been the case, evidently, for the last 10 years that the left are very purist, and the very prominent members of the left, if they don't abide by leftist dogma, they get ostracized. J.K. Rowling is a classic example. She should be a darling of the left. The amount she's given for fantastic causes, I believe she's a woman of the left, a Labour supporter, traditionally. I managed to check that. And she has been villainized as some sort of modern day Hitler because she's a women's rights activist. Is absolutely nuts.
She's a great example because you see people on the right trying to claim her and she's not on their side.
Yeah.
But the right has such at least at this moment, things could change, I know, but at this moment, the right does seem to have a bigger tent, and they're willing to take anyone who opposes the radical left, even if they themselves are not on the right. That they'll break bread with anyone, have conversations with anyone, and try to win people over, persuade them. Whereas on the extreme left, at least, there's no desire for that kind of open dialogue. It's shaming, stigma, reputation destruction, trying to purify their ranks.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.